It's Tuesday, and it's a Tool Time Tuesday, and we got a new belt grinder. All right, guys, thanks so much for checking this out. It is like, well, I got up at 4:30 this morning, so it's about 5 o'clock a.m. Please forgive me if I'm a little bit groggy. I haven't had enough coffee even really at all. So anyways, what we'd like to take a look at today is the Black Fox 1 Generation 3 2x72 belt grinder. Now, I've actually had this grinder for about 3 weeks, and I haven't actually used it. The reason for that is that I need to reconfigure my grinding area before I can get this put in, get it into my workflow. And I just want to make this video. I've had this and I've had to hide it in other videos, and I want you guys to see it. So this is not like an in-depth review. This is just a, hey, check out this grinder. Now, a little bit more backstory about the Black Fox company and myself. Thaddeus Hicks is a gentleman that owns the company, and he actually has a background in the food industry, like the engineering and stuff of food processing equipment. And he's taken some of what he's learned there and applied it to the 2x72 belt grinder, which is a crazy cool idea. One example of that would be this work rest. So this work rest is actually a plastic. I forget, it's got some fancy name. I don't know what it is, but it's plastic. It's a very hard plastic. That's a great idea. Very often on the grinder, you're doing wet work, right? You're cooling your knives. If you're using jigs, you've got a lot of water all over. And with my grinder that I have, my other one, I've got a metal work rest. And so I end up getting rusting on there. I don't wipe it off. I don't do my due diligence. There's been a few times before videos that I have to take WD-40 and a Scotch-Brite and like really clean it up, because I know the guys in the comments would be like, you need to look after your stuff, which is true. They would be 100% right in saying that. So I just like to clean it up so you can avoid those awkward conversations here on the internet. About a year and a half ago, Thaddeus had reached out to me and said, I'd like to send you a grinder. Would you like one? And I said, no. You said no? Yes, I actually said no to the grinder, and the reason for that is back then I was thinking, I had an idea in my mind of building my own 2x72. That has not that has not developed at all beyond the thought in my mind. What I really didn't want to do back then was say yes to a grinder and then maybe a few months later release my own grinder. I figured that just wouldn't be a very good thing to do. Now, if you've been around this channel for any length of time, you notice I don't do an awful lot of sponsorships. I'm not against them, but there's very few companies that I'm actually willing to say, yeah, you know what, I'm willing to put my reputation out there. And one thing you'll never find is come here to watch me make a knife or do something, and then here's brought to you by a video game on your phone. Sorry, I am not going there. YouTube, for me, I try to keep it as honest as possible. So I'm not telling you to go build websites or play stupid games on your phone, but I did get this grinder for free. I'm not paid to do anything with this grinder. There's no written contracts between Thaddeus and myself. We were just messaging back and forth on Instagram, and he shipped this to Montana. I brought it up. So we're going to take a look at this. I'm going to leave links in the description to his website, to his Instagram. You can check this out. I think these are great values. But let's just really quickly do like a run around. At the end of the video, I'll show you some of the changes I'm going to make to my grinding area. So if you're interested in checking that out, you can. But the grinder. Okay, let's go. So this is a vertical and horizontal grinder. One thing I really like is it's a 2-bar grinder. So we've got 1 bar for the platen and 1 bar for your work rest. This gives a lot of versatility, and I think it gives a lot more options for different tooling and accessories and stuff like that. You'll notice this work rest has a very odd shape. Well, that is designed to match the platen. One thing that he's done, and I know other companies do this as well, but this is a brilliant idea. We've got a 5-inch contact wheel on the bottom of the platen. This is our flat platen, and then a 2-inch contact wheel at the top. What that does is it gives you 3 working implements in one. And the one thing I noticed too is that he's got this slot here. Gives you the adjustment. He's got that machine to 180 degrees, so you can really kick this tooling arm out quite a bit, as opposed to like the KMG that I have. You can only get this at 45. Now, the further out you can bring this, the more contact, the more wrap of the belt you can have around the wheel, giving you more area to work around the wheel. So little things like that, I'm like, man, he's paying a lot of attention. And it's absolutely fantastic. It's also got a very unique method for adjusting the platen position, and it is incredibly adjustable. You can move it around like crazy. He's got little tabs tapped into there, and I think that's if you want to add a glass platen for that. He's already got provisions for you to do that, which is really cool. And this shape here, matches the profile of the contact wheel. So if we want to go to horizontal, we can slide this in, lock it down. All of the knobs are like a rubbery, kind of a hard rubbery texture. They feel fantastic. And then you'll also notice he uses a lot of gas shocks in this system. So the belt tensioner is a gas shock. This little detent, this mechanism that locks it horizontal or vertical, is a gas shock. And then he's also got a gas shock on the back here, which just kind of helps offset some of the weight of the motor so it just doesn't like fling around on you. So if you want to switch this over, super easy. Lift this up, slide it down, boom, lock it into position, and you're grinding horizontally. Again, I really like the way this work rest wraps around the wheel, so you've got nice real estate to be working on here. And this here, this is just brilliant. I think this is just so nice. You're working like this. Oh, now I need to go do something different in the vertical. Just lift it up, boom, like that, done. Bring this like this, swap this around like this. You can make your own work rests, whatever you want, but it's a really, really neat system. Now, the big kicker with this thing, the thing that I find amazing, and I don't know if you've noticed it yet, maybe you have, a lot of you guys are bright in the morning. You notice there's just a cable going into the base. That's because he's actually put the VFD into the base of this grinder. That to me is such a great idea. Look how clean this package is. His concept with this, what he'd wanted to do was make one machine to do a lot of things. So you think about this. You've got room for one grinder. Well, you put this in that place and you've got a vertical and a horizontal. But he's also done some other interesting things. He makes a surface grinding attachment for this. Check this thing out. Some of you guys know that I'm a big fan of the disc grinder. I use my disc grinder an awful lot. Well, what if you don't have room for a disc grinder and a belt grinder? What do? Well, you get this and then you buy his disc grinding attachment. So you take your 2x72 belt, that becomes your drive belt. Boom, you've got a 9-inch disc. Just think about that. Have you seen anybody do that before? I never have. And the fact that this thing articulates, you can use this as a vertical grinder or horizontal just as easy as you can by flipping it in the belt grinder setup. So things like this, when I see him doing stuff like that, I'm like, it's pretty cool. He's doing a lot of cool stuff. And I haven't actually used this yet. I'm going to give it a shot and see how I like it compared to a proper disc grinder. But really, if you're tight for space, you know, you don't have to buy another motor, another VFD. Disc grinder, it's crazy. I think that's about what I can say about this right now. Again, this is not like an in-depth review, long-term review. I'm going to do those once I've had some time to use this. But I just want to show you this. If you're in the market for a belt grinder, say you've been doing the old filing methods on your bevels and you've been doing it for a while and you're like, I want to upgrade. Or if you have a homemade grinder and it's like, I'd like something a little bit more polished. This is an option. This is one option that you should probably look at. The more things you look at, the better informed decision you can make. The other thing I really like about this is he's trying to keep it very competitively priced. And the more companies that are getting into the game of grinders, the more competition, the better it is for you and I, the consumers. So I think this is a really promising looking grinder. You know, when you just look at it, I've built my own grinders, I've used grinders, and I can tell that this is a good, solid machine. I like the pancake design, very, very simple. Like these spacers in the middle here, those look to me, in fact, I almost guaranteed they're 3D printed parts. Well, that's cost savings, right? If you're not machining something there, you're just printing 3D, that's fairly inexpensive as far as materials and man hours. I know 3D printing is not a fast process, but if you can just set this sucker up and run and print a whole bunch of these parts, I like the way that he's using those innovations in his manufacturing. See, when I think about making a belt grinder, I'm like, okay, it's all got to be steel. And maybe we'll do some machining and some welding. Well, he's like, no, it does not all have to be steel. What's wrong with this spacer being plastic? If it's the right plastic, nothing. And so things like that have really impressed me. One other thing, like he's got a lot of different ways you can configure this. You can actually add a light to it. He's got a really nice industrial light. And he's got access, like extra provisions for switches for that. He has an electronic belt tensioning system. He's got provisions for a switch for that. And then he's got the knockouts in the back of the panel. So you just pop out the dust covers, wire up your cables for whatever you're using. So This thing comes with the option to add 3 more switches. That's really, really cool. I think that's fantastic. I'll put on the screen the VFD that he's put into here. It's a good one. It's not like he's just got some little hoobu-joobu VFD or something. It's a name brand VFD that he puts in here, and it's from the underneath. So you see this portion right here is just a piece of sheet metal that's been broken, and then it's completely sealed up on the edges here, and you access it from the bottom. That's pretty much it. That is the Black Fox grinder. Take a look at their website, worth checking it out. And if you want to stick around just a little bit longer, I'm going to show you what I've done or what I'm going to do to make room for this thing. And if not, thanks for watching. Okay, let's go over there. All right, so really quickly, this here is my current setup. I've got a belt grinder, the KMG, the Beaumont Metalworks, the original one, and a disc grinder. Now, I've heavily modified this grinder. It used to be a shaft machine, so you had the shaft to the drive wheel, and then you had to put your motor with a V-belt. Not the greatest system. Economical to produce, I suppose, but this is a much smoother when you can get with a direct drive. Really like the Black Fox, it's a direct drive unit. But what I've done with this is I wanted to use this horizontally, so this is kind of a really terrible way to do it, but it worked and whatever. I've got my work rest here, and I've just cut a hole right here in this bench so that the motor has clearance, and then I put a hinge on the left side of the base. So you look, my grinder is here right now, and when I put it to horizontal, it moves all the way over to here. So it takes up a lot of room. Now, again, this thing works just fine like this. There's nothing wrong with this. It's just bigger. It takes more room. What my plans are is I'm going to leave this back. I'm going to put this back to being a dedicated vertical grinder. I'm going to scoot it over this way a couple of inches. This VFD is going to get mounted on an arm. These are just metal legs I have on this bench. So I'm going to bring an arm up here, mount the VFD out of the way, scoot this thing over. And the plan is that this is going to be the grinder that I do my bevels on. So I'm going to not have the dust collection option for this grinder. I'm just going to put my water bucket under there, collect sparks, cool the blade as I'm grinding. Going to bring the dust collector. I need to still figure out how I'm going to mount it to that grinder. One thing I like with this is that it follows the grinder when I go vertical, horizontal. Really handy. I would not work at all without dust collection when I'm shaping handles and stuff like that. So that's going to be on the Black Fox, which is going to be right in the middle. And then this one here is going to stay the same. I still have some work to do on my disc grinder. I still need to make a work rest for it, and I'd like a way to get this so I can use it horizontally, not just vertically as I have it right now. But that's the plan. Just need to get a new top on here. It's like going to be like a half-day project. I just need to get to it. I've got, like, I actually drilled holes and I ran the cables up and then terminated them in the box. So I've got to pull all these cables out of here, basically disconnect the connections inside the VFDs and the motors. But I think this is going to be a really nice setup. So I'll have metal stuff, grinding my bevels, finishing work with that newer grinder, and then the disc grinder right here. I think that's pretty much it for this video. I want to say thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it. If you have any comments or questions about the Black Fox grinder, just leave them in the comment section below. Check out their website, links in the description, and you're going to be seeing that grinder in upcoming videos. And again, once I've had some time with it and I've actually got my hands dirty with it, I'll be doing follow-up, kind of a more in-depth review of the grinder. But think about this, guys. There's more options for us. More people are making grinders, different grinders, better grinders. That's only good news for you and for me. I just want to say a huge thank you to Thaddeus for the grinder, to the Black Fox Knife Company for sending that to me. Really looking forward to using it and giving my honest feedback, and it's going to be a lot of fun. If you like this video, guys, give it a thumbs up. That really does help a lot, and consider subscribing to the channel if you have not done so already. As always, I thank you so much for watching. Cheers. It's like just after 5 o'clock. I need some coffee.